Thank you, Mr. Neal, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said earlier, it's a sad day for America when the Committee of Cognizance has to have this issue of inquiry so that we can actually produce before the committee, instead of an empty seat and empty chairs, the person who President Trump has designated to find $2 trillion worth of cuts, a person who has publicly said that he knows where to find those. They're in what he calls entitlements. What everybody on this committee knows with regard to Social Security is an earned benefit that they pay. And so the people in your districts are wondering whether or not, because the chairman just said that there's no way that President Trump is going to touch Social Security, even though last weekend he called it a scam, and that Elon Musk was on television just last night again saying that, yes, their goal is to privatize Social Security. Given these statements, I don't understand why there's a problem with bringing forth Mr. Musk to testify before this committee. And if he's got all these ideas of fraud, abuse, and waste are true, then yes, Mr. Chairman, we should join with you to make sure that that's the case. But even the acting person handpicked by Trump has said, well, what they said about people receiving checks older than 115 years old is false. That's Trump appointment saying that. And so we continue to get the big lie, including this weekend again, where they said, oh yes, and the Democratic plan is to bring illegal immigrants into the country by offering to pay them Social Security. There's not a thread of truth to any of that. And yet, this unaccountable person, not a federal employee, not a volunteer, but a special person who's not had to go on through Senate approval, and who this committee is now saying, yes, we agree with the president, he should not be accountable. He should be able to have free reign and do whatever he wants. We will willingly follow him and do whatever he says, because he's the wealthiest man in the world, and surely he must know how to save us from ourselves. This program of Social Security that, just happens to be the #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and for the children of this country. Yep, I agree, Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump aren't going to lose a moment's sleep thinking about the privatization and what it means to those individuals. And yes, you can say that he's not going to do this, but yet there's no commissioner here, no person under oath raising their hand and saying, yes, no, we have no intention of privatizing Social Security. He's made it clear time and time again. And if not, well, by all means, we'll be happy to have him here. We've sent letters. Chairman Esty knows 3 weeks ago I sent a letter asking for him to come immediately before the subcommittee. And we'll continue to do that because we want to hear, as does the American public, the truth.
Thank you. The committee will now proceed to consideration of HRES 195. Without objection, the measure will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Does anyone wish to strike the last word? Mr. Buchanan is recognized.
Mr. Larson, you've been maybe a little longer than I have, but the two of us came in 2006 when they started PAYGO. I ran on a balanced budget amendment or trying to get there. We're $8 trillion in debt. Here's what's sad. And here's where we go broke, so if we don't deal with it. It was $8 trillion when we came in. Today, $37 trillion. It's not your fault, it's not our fault, it's both parties. I don't have any confidence that we can deal with this. I sadly say that. I'm just telling you from my standpoint, because you would have dealt with it a long time ago. I've had expert economists tell me it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So do we want to go down this false road where we haven't been able to perform on a bipartisan basis or get anything done? Or do we want to try to look at other options? And I feel like at least we got a shot. Because I can just tell you when you're paying $1 trillion in interest.
Will the gentleman
$1
yield?
trillion in interest, just give me a couple minutes. When you're paying $1 trillion in interest right off the top, it's going to end badly. And I just feel, I'm an optimist. Anybody that knows me, I am. But I am very, very concerned about the debt and the deficit. And it's both parties. I have no confidence in this process, what we've been doing for all these years, because I've never seen anybody talk about dealing with the reality of a budget. I dealt with balance sheets and income statements. At some point, you go bankrupt. And that's my point. We're doing that right now. Regardless what happens here today, regardless what road going, if we don't make material changes, Social Security's at risk. I got the 5th oldest district in the country. Putting them all at risk. Medicare, Medicaid is at risk. Everything's at risk. We've got to fix this thing. We got to fix it together. Because I can just tell you, it's hard to imagine my 10th term here. I get sick of hearing it. Everybody talks a good game, but we don't do anything. But for the sake of the American people, and I feel your passion. I know we talked about Social Security. I was on the committee. But we've got to do whatever we can to fix what we're doing because, you got to either go down the road we've been going down, which I have no confidence, or you look at another road, and I think this other road gives us at least a shot. We don't have a shot right now. This will give us a shot because we don't have the courage to come together. And I'll yield.
Well, I thank the gentleman. It was always a gentleman. But what we need, and for more than 50 years, you're right, both parties share responsibility in this. But here's what we need, a vote. How about a vote? We have a plan. Where's yours? And how can you get to a compromise if there's a plan and no plan? How about a vote then? How about the American people get to see where you stand on the issue? And as has been articulated by several on the other side, we just simply don't believe that this program can last or make it. I totally believe that this is America's number one. In fact, we borrow
give me a little.
from Social Security. Yes, your time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me just say, I would wish that we could come together and deal with this. It's the biggest problem we've got. We're financially going down the drain. I don't care who you talk to or what you talk to. I hate to say that because it's the best country on the planet, but we've got to fix our financial house. We've got to fix it together because if we don't, we're going to end up in a very, very bad situation. Someone says when that might be, who knows, but it's coming. It's coming quickly. You can't pay $1 trillion off the top without impacting everybody. And Social Security, that's not the employees, it's their money, plus all the employers matched them half. So they, this is their money, it's at risk. There's no trust fund for it. They took all the monies out in the 60s in terms of Social Security. So they're counting on the viability of America.
That's not true.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I understood. But
Well, that's not true at all. In fact, the federal government borrows from Social
I'm
Security.
going to yield back, so yeah, I'll reclaim my time. Thank you. Yield back.
Mr. Neal.
Thanks, Chairman. I move to strike the last word. So I heard the gentleman's argument, and I think it's very sincere. But what's missing is, in the next few weeks, we will be asked to add $4 trillion to the debt because of tax cuts. That's the great irony or inconsistency of this argument. So let me give you a name here, Bill Clinton. Balanced the budget 4 times, and then tax cuts in 2001 and 2003. We're being asked for big tax cuts again here in the next few weeks, but under the guise that we're going to balance the budget with more tax cuts? The numbers don't work. And incidentally, for the record, Social Security right now is running a surplus of $2.7 trillion. That's a fact. And I call attention to that because happy to have the discussion about balancing the budget. Some of us actually participated, cast some really tough votes for spending cuts and tax increases twice. Bush Sr., Clinton twice, cuts and tax increases to balance the budget, and it worked. The answer from the other side is if we just have more tax cuts, just add more to the debt, that somehow the debt shrinks? I mean, the consistency of the argument here is that more tax cuts will balance the budget. And then we'll camouflage it by borrowing $4 trillion that we will be asked to take up here as we lift the debt ceiling once again. I'm all in for a sincere conversation of how to get there. If the other side is sincere about it, let's engage the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All Americans